The Heat and Knicks game was insane. And what it showed me was that none of these teams could be complacent with their position. The Knicks played like shit, and Jalen Brunson was the only person that actually did anything. But even he underperformed heavily. He missed a lot of shots, and when he tried to be physical with the defender so they would back away, the defender would give in to that and just get in their face. It was a very physical game, especially between Isaiah Hartenstein and Cody Zeller, who got into it, and Bam and Mitchell Robinson, who also got into it. The game, they were pushing each other around, and it became so bad that Emmanuel quickly got hurt in his leg because Bam's shoulder fell on him, and I hope he's okay. But the game was all hustle, was all like just try to win, get every rebound, throw your body out there, and like try to win. In the end, the Heat won, and they have a special way where each one of their guys contributed, which was insane. Everyone played defense, everyone scored well, they were running smart possessions, and even when the Knicks went on runs, they were still just like 10 points in reach, right? Like, even though the Knicks could go 12-0, which I think they did at one point in the fourth quarter, they were still 10 points up. So that showed Miami's dominance throughout the game. I want to say shout out to Jimmy Butler. I know that a lot of people have looked at his playoffs and been like, oh, but like he's been insane. This is like a bad game for him because he dropped 28 and he didn't shoot 50% from the field. But I think that Jimmy, if you actually watched the game, was one of the guys putting his body out there, especially since he recently got injured. I think he's been incredible at still playing offense but also making the right passes. You know, if you looked through a lot of the game, he would throw a pass to somebody and then they would make that second pass and then that would be a point. And Jimmy was the one who started that even if he didn't have that many assists. On the Knicks side, I do want to say that Emmanuel Quickly, he did play great. And he put a lot out there, like a lot of points and a lot of offense out there when the Knicks were down. Also, I think, Gabe Vincent, I don't know what happened to him, but it's like he went quiet this game. He couldn't score, and I think the one thing that he scored was a layup. But he still was a plus 14 as he got 4 assists and 5 points. I do want to say that Kevin Love was playing great. His stats may not show it because he only got 9 rebounds, but he was hustling, he was being physical, and yes, he did shoot poorly, but he was playing apart from being very effective. He was also playmaking a lot, which was a really good thing since the Heat shooters were on fire. Duncan Robinson in the end of the game had a 3. Hayward Highsmith had a 3. I'm pretty sure it was in the corner. Kyle Lowry made 2 threes. Max Strus made 3 of 10, and most of these guys were efficient, which worked to their favor. But even though their guys shot well, it still didn't change that throughout the entire game, both teams shot poorly. The Heat shot 39% from the field, the Knicks 34%. The Heat 22% from 3, and the Knicks 20%. It was a real physical, gritty game of just put up whatever shot works. But I do think that what stole it for the Heat was their coaching. Their plays were better. Like in the end of the game when they had benched Jimmy for like 4 minutes of the fourth, or no, for like 8 minutes of the fourth, and there were 5 minutes left in the game. And then Jimmy came in, and they ran a lot of like run the break and try to get a dunk, throw a long pass. And Jimmy got the lead up with some easy buckets. I do want to say Josh Hart played great. It might not look in his stat line because, in terms of efficiency, because it was below average, but he was being guarded by Jimmy, and he was playing very physical, getting a lot of rebounds. And I think he was the brightest light for the Knicks. Julius Randle played awful. Yes, he got a lot of rebounds and he was being very physical, but at the end of the game, he got toppled over, and the one three-pointer that he actually hit didn't count. Jalen Brunson, he had a very all-around game. I just believe that it would be better that when he's on the floor, there are more spacers. There are more people that can space the floor because RJ, if he has a cold night, is not that good, right? He shot 2 for 7 and scored 14. Josh Hart, also, he can make a wide open three, but it's not like you really want him shooting those a ton. I feel like putting a guy like Emmanuel quickly, but even he shot poorly, even though he had a decent performance. But just having a guy like Quentin Grimes out there would probably help. Obi Toppin gets a lot of looks, but he doesn't really convert on any of them. And I think the problem is that the Knicks have no answer for the Heat. You want to play fast, they'll drop 130 on you like they did on the Bucks, where it was like 128. You want to play slow, they can play slow, and they will still score more than 100 points. It's not that their offense is perfect, but they have the exact group of guys which they need. And I believe that that is in large part due to the big men which they signed in the trade deadline. Like Kevin Love and Cody Zeller have helped a ton with physicality, with size, because even though Bam is awesome, let's face it, he can only guard so many centers and that much strength without being outguarded or outmatched. So really, I do want to say that those signings really help. Also, giving Duncan Robinson minutes, but not keeping him in the entire game, that's been a great thing for them, as he can come in and make an in-rhythm three. And now that changes the game. He is inefficient, but you just kind of have to live with that. I like how they trust all of their players. Like a guy like Hayward Highsmith, in 12 minutes of play time, had 5 points and 6 rebounds on 50% from the field and 100% from three. I feel like you look at that per 36, which it might not be a good stat, but that's like almost 20 rebounds and 15 points on like great efficiency. So I believe that the Heat was just more of a collective effort. Max Strus played great running the break. Kevin Love, I already talked about him. But now let's talk about the one which I want to talk about the most, which was Bam Adebayo. I watched this game and I was impressed because Bam's numbers recently have been looking really bad or much worse than what they were in the regular season. Like he's dropped in points by like 5 points or 4 points. And we know that he's a defensive center first, but we need higher production, especially since we're going up against good teams who can score a lot of points. But surprisingly, he played amazing this game. Shot 50% from the field, made 3 free throws out of 4, had a block, had 1 turnover, but he had 17 points and 12 rebounds, and he played phenomenal defense on Julius Randle. I do want to say that something that stood out a bunch from this game was that there were a lot of fouls. Mitchell Robinson had 4, Jalen Brunson 3, Julius Randle 4, RJ Barrett 3, and then Isaiah Hartenstein 2, Quentin Grimes 2, Obi Toppin 2. Like, that's a lot of fouls, especially for a team. And then Miami had even more, right? Because they had Caleb Martin get 4, Gabe Vincent get 4, Bam Adebayo get 4, Cody Zeller get 4, etc. So really, in my opinion, this game, that foul problem, sending them to the line, was something that really suffered. But I guess that's just a result of both teams playing such aggressive basketball. I do want to say that the Knicks need to figure out something to do when Jalen Brunson is not running. Like, he's good, but we all know that he serves best as a playmaker and a scorer, like mixed, right? He's not too much of a scorer, too much of a playmaker. But when he's not working in their offense, he doesn't, and there's barely any leads, barely any passes, and the ball doesn't flow as smoothly. So I think the Knicks have to figure that out if they want a chance to win this series. And yeah, I mean, Miami looks good. Miami looks like the best eighth seed we could have gotten, honestly. So I think Miami will win the series, but let's see what happens.